I was born in an Ethiopian refugee camp. I was surrounded by my parents, part of our extended family. I remember a few cousins coming along with us to the refugee camp. It was a very loving environment. It was a community there. We ate meals as a community. We did celebrations as a community. We did church as a community. Everything was shared among each other. So it was a very lively camp that we went to. I don't remember many events because we moved when I was about 4. And so all the things I remember are like itty bitty bits. So it's nothing big, but it was lots of, community celebrations. You may not know, but many people who are like South Sudanese or Kenyan for that matter, they have like a coming of age ceremony where they'll be making like beads and whatnot. And we ended up making bracelets. They often go on our hands and then we keep them on until like our hands outgrow them. So it's like a little growth ritual. It was very fun. Lots of like games, things that resemble like soccer or handball, probably here. We played many games like that. Tag was one of them, or it wasn't called tag, but it was something similar where we'd all be running because there were so many children in the refugee camp, so we had to do things away from the adults, because we were noisy and whatnot. But besides that, if I wasn't playing games, we'd be like doing some weaves, we'd be doing yarn work, those types of things. It was only until after we came here that, I expanded my hobbies, of course, and whatnot. And now I love to do crochet. I love any fiber work, really. Crochet, knitting. I recently started embroidery, and I'd really like to do quilting soon. It was a little difficult at first because when we came, we didn't come with cousins in our area, so it was really just us. We were kind of dispersed. We lived in the Kitchener area, whereas my cousins, they lived closer to like Cambridge and whatnot. And when we came, my parents were still adapting. So things like, driving, cars, this, that, and third, being able to get to my cousins, that one was a little bit difficult. And so we also weren't like aware of like, buses, those types of transit. So it was a very we were very tight knit because we didn't really have anywhere else to go. And so coming in, it was a lot of just me being surrounded by my family, trying to learn the culture, learning the language. But it was very much like moving as a family because things like friends or community partners, those things, we didn't really have that. One of them was probably the language. We came here when I was 4, and so learning the language was pretty difficult. One, because at home, my parents didn't really know how to speak it. It was mainly my mom that we were with, and she didn't really know English, and she wasn't as interested in learning English as my father, who was the one that, was planning to go into the workforce. And so at home, we were learning our tribal language, but then in school, we would be learning English, or at least trying to learn English, and it became very difficult because we weren't able to pick up on either languages. So at home, we grew up with like a broken type of English, and it didn't really help us when we went to school and whatnot. And so we were put into an ESL program, and because we were in that program, we weren't even able to make many friends because, it was a very small program and half of the people in there were like my siblings and I. So I was surrounded by more family than ever. So I'd say one of the challenges was, the process of acquiring English as, our main language and how isolating it was. Well, one, it's a lot more diverse here in Canada than it was ever that I remember in the refugee camp. Back in Ethiopia, there were a lot more people that looked like me. They spoke a similar language. They had similar struggles, and that was just, being the refugee camp. The problems were also not as complex. I mean, I was just a kid there, but in Canada, I can't really say that's the same. Definitely going out into the world, being, faced with so much diversity and so much differing opinions. I didn't realize how important my skin color would be living here because it's not something that, we were ever really taught to notice, but it's such a big theory, and it kind of guides how I act in the world because once upon a time it wasn't something that, I ever really considered as like something about me, right? It was just, this is how I look. But coming here and living here, it's very important to how people treat you and how people perceive you because before they even get to know you, they've already had opinions. And so that was probably one of the biggest culture shocks that I've ever experienced.